Do you ever think, why is life so unfair to some? Or when considering an atrocity in the world, think, why did that happen? Is there fairness in life? In this episode of the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast, we discuss unfairness. Based on the logic taught at the Leadership Society of Arizona, there is no true unfairness in life. In this episode, Dr. Jacob teaches that though we may not know the reason nor agree with the reason, life is orderly and operates according to law. Everything that happens must be fair.
Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast, episode 56.
Everyone wants happiness and success, and we know how to get you there. Come listen to the Leadership Society of Arizona as we teach a proven logic to help you simplify life, overcome challenges, and predict the future. You're listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. My name is Chuck Solanas, and I'm joined by our very special guest, Dr. Jacob Kashiwagi. We have a question today about the fairness of life. A lot of people think that life is unfair in a lot of different ways, and it's often used as examples in news stories and different headlines, different things that people just get mad about. You know, how unfair that this happened, and when seemingly they were doing everything right. So my question to you is, according to the logic that you teach, if everything happens for a reason, do you believe there is any unfairness in life?
The answer to that is, if everything happens by reason, then there is nothing that's unfair in life. And I believe everything happens for a reason.
Got it. All right. Well, so that's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you feel like you've gone through some unfairness in life. So you are saying that if everything happens for a reason, everything from when you were born to up until today needed to happen in your life. It was required.
Yes.
Okay. And you're also saying that if everything was required in your life, nothing could have happened that was not supposed to happen or unfair, for example.
Yes. So let me give you an example. My own life. So was it fair that I was born into an Asian family that was really short, living in Mesa, Arizona with Caucasian people who are all much taller, much better looking? At least, you know, they like the way each other looks more than Asians look, per se. Especially an Asian that's really short, only weighs maybe like 90 pounds, 99 pounds going into high school. Was it fair that I was kind of like an outcast because my family's a little different? The way I think is a lot different, more different than everyone else at my age. I was worried about like the meaning of life in high school, and everybody else was more concerned about, I don't know, maybe dating or something else, right? Was it fair that I had absolutely no social skills or understood other people very well, especially people I was attracted to? Was it really fair, you know, that I wasn't really very smart in math, even though I'm Asian? I took maybe 2 AP classes my whole high school career, in which I didn't do very well on the tests. So it didn't really help me out any. Yeah, you know, is all that fair? You know, when I look back at it, maybe when I was young, I thought maybe, wow, I got kind of a crummy take on life. And of course, there's people who had a much worse life than me, and a lot of people who had a much better life than me, per se. But now that I'm grown up and I see what's happened, I see who I am because of what I went through, because of who I was. I'm really happy with it. And so sometimes, you know, you look at things and you say, yeah, this is really unfair, but maybe if you just wait long enough, you start realizing, wow, I'm glad all that happened. Does that make sense?
Okay. So you can see the bright side a little later. Maybe while you're going through it, you're going to think this is unfair. This is unreasonable. Why did this happen?
You got it.
Okay. All right. So let's go into a bit of a harder example. We understand your life, and I would think that you've had a pretty good life, but if you think otherwise, then that it's been unfair to you or whatever. To each his own, right? But so let's say, for example, you're a mom and your baby dies, and suddenly in their sleep. You can think, well, that's unfair for the baby, and that's unfair for the mom. How is it that you can say that that was fair based off of the logic?
Well, this is really tough, especially because, to an example, there's all sorts of things going on, a lot of information that we don't know. Even when we see things on the news or we hear stories from people, there's a lot of information that we don't know, which the less you know, the more you're likely to think something is unfair. But first, let's go to what is unfair.
Well, I think in a general sense, people would think that unfairness is when you expect something to happen that doesn't happen. Your expectations for what should be happening doesn't happen. Do you follow?
So, in order for something to be fair, what I want to happen needs to happen.
I would think so.
So if I feel like in my life I should grow another 3 feet and be able to have, become president of the United States and have millions and millions of dollars in the next 2 years, if that doesn't happen, that's unfair.
I would say that's an extreme example. However, most people, if everyone's around you saying that this event should happen in your life, if the expectation from your environment and from yourself is that a certain thing should happen, let's say your kid grows to be older than you, they don't die before you, or if everyone should have equal opportunity to get a certain job or a certain position or to a certain station in life, they could think that that's unfair. So it's got to be it can't just be one person, but I understand that some people may think life is unfair because they aren't able to fulfill their dreams.
Okay, so let's take the time of World War II in Germany, where a lot of people felt Germany deserves to rule the world. Just more than one person, many people felt this way now. Was it unfair that Germany actually was conquered by the Allies and they weren't able to conquer the entire world?
For my outlook, I'm pretty happy that happened.
So you don't feel it was unfair for Germany to have lost?
No.
Okay, you see, what I'm trying to get at is when you really look at something being fair, it can't be your opinion. In reality, what we're saying is it has to go by an order. It has to follow natural law to be fair, right? And I don't know all the natural laws. And so there are very tragic things that happen. There are people who die, there are people who get hurt, there are people who, crazy things happen to them that's not the funnest and not something that, you wish upon anyone. But what I am saying is that in this world of natural laws that we live in, when you really get down to what's fair, fair is when the world follows an order, when there's a natural law and it's being followed. Things don't happen by chance or randomness. And so when I look at things might be very tragic in terms of sad and not good events in terms of what people think, but they still could be fair, right? Because of the natural laws in play. Like this mother losing her child, there might be natural laws in play that we don't really understand, that, the baby had disease or something happened, or, the development of the baby didn't occur right, and the baby was supposed to die. right? Because of the physical, natural laws to it, in the health reasons and whatnot. It's a tragic situation. It's really sad for the mother, and it's not something you wish upon anyone. But when you look at, did it follow the natural laws, it very well could still be fair. Does that make sense?
So you're saying in that scenario, even though a lot of people are questioning why did this happen, and they're thinking what's the meaning behind this all? Why could that have ever occurred? You're saying that it must follow something that is occurring, like some law, if there was an underlying disease, or if there was just like a suffocation, or if there was just something that happened, which it's immutable. It's something that, if you don't have oxygen, you can't continue living, and that's just something that unfortunately happens to with SIDS, with sudden infant death syndrome. Yeah.
Yes, and with a lot of things, and yes, so yes, is it something that is tough? Yes. Is it something that you wouldn't wish upon anyone? Yes, but it still is following the order of things.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, if things happen for a reason, if everything's happening by these natural laws, there is no such thing as anything being unfair. Everything's always following some type of rule or order. Yeah, it might not be one that we like, or one that we feel is good or helpful, but it is in order, and it has always followed this way. And so in that sense, it always is fair. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people can think back on their life and think, "Oh, that was so unfair that happened. Why did that happen to me?" And they may not understand the reason for a long time. It may take them many, many years for them to come to terms with that event or that occurrence.
I mean, I can think of numerous examples in my life where I thought it was unfair at the time. I can think of numerous examples right now when sometimes I think it's unfair, and it's only later that I'm like, oh yes, what am I thinking it is fair?
Yeah. So.
But that's why they always say hindsight is 20/20.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually you have more information after it occurred. And once you get all the information and understanding is what allows you to realize it was fair, right? The less information you have, the less understanding of the situation you have, the more you think it's unfair. That's why if I tell you someone's walking down the street and someone jumps out of a bush and stabs them with a knife and kills them, you think, oh yeah, that's unfair. But as we get more information, oh yes, but this person had about $200,000 sticking out of their pocket in the middle of the night in the opposite gang's territory. Then you're like, wait a minute, that's not unfair. We could have predicted that. That follows some type of natural law, right? And so the more information you get, the more you realize, oh yes, it's fair.
Okay, so all these different causes which people rally behind, that they're saying fight unfairness, fight injustice, fight all these things. You're saying that based off of logic, your understanding is that nothing's really unjust, nothing's really unfair, and that when it happens for a reason. Are you saying, is there never really a just cause to fight for?
What I'm saying is that everything's following an order. Sometimes the order is when you fight for something, things change. And it allows things to go a different way, which could be a really good thing. So I'm not saying you can't fight for things, because sometimes the natural laws, you got to fight for something for it to change, right? But what I'm saying is, I might not understand the reason why things are happening, and the reason why things are a certain way, but it is following an order. And if it's following an order, it means everything is fair that happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when things are, organizations are governed by people, there can be things or prejudices or biases that they have in terms of certain conditions that they need or certain people that they're looking for, or a variety of discriminatory practices that may occur within an organization. And so fighting for something like that could allow there to be something more equity, or
well, it could cause things to change, so less people are biased against, which is a good thing.
Right. So you're saying everything in life is fair because everything follows reason or natural law. So there can't be anything that's unfair. When people start protesting, it is fair. When people aren't protesting, it is fair. So regardless of the situation, it's always fair. There's no injustice. It's always fine.
So life is in harmony. You can be at peace with everything.
When there's wars, when there's people that like a ton of violence, that's fair.
So what I'm saying is, if you're looking at my point of view, everything that's happened in the past, everything that's currently happening, I'm at peace with. And moving forward, I'm going to do the thing that I think is the best. And I know that it's a good thing.
Where you feel at peace, or you're going to follow what you feel is going to lead you to the happiest life.
So when I'm looking back, when I'm looking forward, I'm always happy. Because everything's great. Even the music in the background. But does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'm sure plenty of people aren't going to be happy with that answer, but I know that if you really think about it, if you really consider it, you can find fairness in that.
Yes, and you know, when you look at the past, I mean, if it's already happened, there's nothing you can do about it. Right?
Well, you can try and prevent it in the future.
Well, you can prevent it in the future anyways without like being upset or holding bad feelings about the past. You can be at peace with the past and what happened. Whatever happened, happened. And moving into the future, you can do whatever you feel is great. And you're justified in it. It's great. And shouldn't that how life, isn't that how life's supposed to be? You're supposed to not have to have the baggage from the past, feel good, wake up, it's a new day, and go out and do whatever you feel is great. You know, whatever you feel is a good thing to focus on.
Yeah, so a lot to reflect on. But I appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Dr. Jacob, for your thoughts, your advice, and thank you, listeners, for listening, and viewers for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. It would be great if you could take a moment to write us a review. For any questions, comments, or topics that you would like to have addressed on the show, email the team at leadaz.org. To learn more about the Leadership Society of Arizona, visit us at leadaz.org.